Hello YouTube and welcome to my very first video. So at first I would like to thank the subreddit support lol for making me do this video. I was unsure whether I should do it or not, but due to the help and support that I got from the subreddit, I decided to do it because why not, right? Could be helpful to a lot of people. Let's hope it is. So, who am I? My name is Francesco. I'm 22 years old. I live in Germany, hence the accent. But my family is Italian, and I play League of Legends. Right? I've played this game for over 9 or 10 years, ever since the beta came out. And ever since then, I've basically played it, and I've basically played the support role ever since then. Right? Switching to jungle every once in a while, but it's mostly just been support. Right? So why should you take my advice? Well, I'm pretty good at this game. I peaked at Challenger in around Season 3 when it just came out. But I was only in Challenger for like a week or so. I've been D1 back then for most of the time. And I've been D1 or Master Tier for most of my gaming time, right? You can check out my OPGG in the description, and let's hope that I'll be Master again when you click on it. I'm currently D2 with ATLP in Season 11, and my goal this season is to reach Grandmaster, so let's hope that that happens. But in general, I'm pretty good on support. I've put thousands and thousands of hours into this role, and I know the nuances of it. I know what to do as a support. I know when to do certain things and when not to do certain things, and I want to give some of that knowledge to you guys so you could learn as well and become a high elo player, especially support player. And well, why is my mic so bad? I just realized like 20 minutes ago that my mic is really shitty because I'm using a 20 euro bad headset, but I just bought, or like I just ordered a good standing microphone on Amazon, so don't worry about that. This will be the only video where I'll have a shitty microphone, right? So sorry about that for this one, but starting with the next video, it will be better. So to quickly go over what is going to happen on my channel, I make support videos. I go over certain support situations like in this video, or I'll go over certain champions, right? I'm planning to do in-depth champion guides in the same sense, or like the same layout that I do this one, where I go over a PowerPoint presentation, talk about my points, and then at the end I will give some examples in the replayer and also talk about that a bit in depth, which I will also do in this video, right? And I'm not sure which champion I should do it on first. This is where you guys come in, because the most upvoted comment on this video will be the champion that I will do the first guide on. So please go ahead, leave me a comment, like the comment that you would like to see, and I will do the champion that gets the most upvotes, right? So let's get into this video. It's about bot lane 2v2s, right? Bot lane 2v2s are basically just you and your ADC versus the enemy ADC and support. But it's not that easy to define it, which is why we will be defining it a bit more in-depth later on. We will also be looking at why it's so important to be learning and studying about bot lane 2v2s. We will be looking at the 3 quote-unquote episodes that there are in a bot lane 2v2 that we should be looking at. Then we will, well, these episodes are going to be, first of all, before the fight, then we have in the fight, and then we have after the fight, right? We need to think about what happened or what will happen in the fight before the fight. Then we need to fight or do the fight itself. And then after the fight, we need to be looking at what happens next, right? So let's define a bot lane 2v2. That's going to be a quick thing, but it's not as easy as you might think, right? So in very simple terms, it's a fight between the bot lane with no gank, right? So a non 2v2 bot lane fight would be your jungler is about to gank your lane, you engage, your jungler comes in, you kill the enemy bot lane. That's not a 2v2, that's just a gank, right? So 2v2 in the bot lane is you and your Xayah versus the enemies in the bot lane. But in a 2v2, there are the possibilities that the enemies or that your teammates TP into the fight. And especially with champions like Twisted Fate or Shen, this will become very important as their ultimates are obviously designed to fight with their team and to teleport to their team. And also, there's the possibility that your jungler or the enemy jungler starts moving bot lane as soon as they see the fight breaking out and do a gank mid fight, right? So it's not as easy as you might think, where it's like, okay, you have your ADC, the enemy bot lane has their ADC and support, we fight, right? A lot can happen in the middle of that fight, that it could turn it not into a 2v2, right? But this is basically a very simple definition. So, why are the 2v2s so important? Well, we need to be studying and learning 2v2s because they are basically the essence of the bot lane, right? The bot lane is a 2v2. You have your ADC, you're the support, you have the enemy ADC, you have their support. And it defines the state of the bot lane. What I mean by that is that if you know how a certain fight will happen and what will happen in that fight, it's very important to figure out what you can do with that information, right? If you have something like a very poke heavy bot lane, then you have the state of you trying not to go into a full on all in. So you have something like Ezreal and Vel'Koz on your team, and the enemy has something like Leona and Draven. These are very opposite bot laners, right? The Vel'Koz and the Ezreal want to want to poke as much as possible and avoid a straight up 2v2 all in, while the Leona and Draven obviously just want to get in your face and kill you as much as possible, right? So it's important to define the state of the bot lane to see what 2v2s will be like. Obviously, 2v2s create leads for your team or the enemy team. The very simple thing that you could be thinking about is obviously the kill gold, right? You kill an enemy, you get 300 gold. Your ADC or like the person that doesn't get the kill gets half of the gold. So obviously you get gold from that. Then obviously you can push the lane, which denies the enemy XP and CS. You could go for roams, you could go for dragons, etc. We will be talking about this a bit more in depth later on. But yeah, bot lane 2v2s create leads. It's important to have leads because obviously you want to win the game, and you win the game by having a good lead. Then obviously we have the bot prio, right? For people who don't know what prio really means, because a lot of people just throw it out there without really knowing that much about it. So prio for a lane basically just means who is the lane that can react quicker to a jungle or river fight, right? The most notable and most common example of that will be the crab. So when your jungler goes for the bot side crab and the enemy jungler goes for the bot side crab, it's important to look at who has the prio, right? Which lane has the prio. That is something that the jungler should do, but a lot of the time, especially in lower elos, junglers just don't do it. They see the crab is up, they go for the crab, right? So we need to try and make it so that we are the ones who have the prio, right? We do that by pushing the lane, because if our minions are at the enemy tower and they try to react to a crab fight, then they will lose all the XP from that tower, which could result in them just being one level down, right? So it's good to establish the prio. We also do that by poking. That is something that certain champions are a lot better than others. For example, you have a Xerath who is gonna be a lot better in poking than a Blitzcrank, for example. So that is how the Xerath creates the prio. A Blitzcrank would create the prio by getting a good hook in, burning a flash, getting the enemy low with a quick fight, something like that, maybe even killing the enemy, right? So you need to try and get your prio so that you can react to the fights in the jungle or the fights in the river quicker than the enemies can. Then also 2v2s or 2v2s that you won make future ganks easier, and 2v2s that you lost make ganks harder in the future, right? So if you have the lead, if you just got a kill on both the enemy and the enemy ADC and the support, then it will be a lot easier for your jungler to come in. You probably burnt their summoner spells. You will probably have something like half a level on them. You will have better items than the enemies. So it will be a lot easier for the Jarvan in your team to just come in, maybe dive the enemy, or even just do a normal gank because you just have a lot more damage than them, right? You prove that you win a 2v2. So it will be a lot easier for your jungler to come in and win a 3v2 or even a 3v3 if the enemy jungler comes in, if one of the enemy laner TPs in, something like that, right? And also there's always the possibility of you 2v8ing, right? The great thing about the bot lane is that it's the only lane where it's not 1 versus 1, it's 2 versus 2, right? If a top laner gets really fed, it's very hard for him to go 1v9 because obviously you have 1 versus 9. But 2v8 is a bit easier because you're basically 20% of the whole game as your bot lane because you're 2 people. So if you win 2v2s and you get the lead, you become insanely fed, you get the dragons, all that good stuff, you roam to mid after the enemy tower is down, you will be able to do a 2v8. If your mid laner is feeding, if your top laner is feeding, if your jungler is feeding, there's a good chance that you still might win this game, whereas a top laner who would have the same score as you could just not win the game because of course he's alone. Bot lane are 2 people, so it's the most important lane in that sense, and it's also why we always see the fiestas in bot lane, right? We see 2 people TP bot, we see the junglers TP bot, and then all of a sudden it's a 5v5, right? It's because it's 2 people and not just 1 person in the lane. This is why 2v2s are so important. So let's look at the 3 episodes, quote unquote. Look at that great Poppy and Lollipoppy, the old skin. What an amazing and beautiful splash art. I still love it. So, first episode. It's before the fight, right? A 2v2 isn't just the fight itself, right? You need to be thinking about what will happen in that fight and what could happen in that fight before the fight, right? And that is something that I call assessing the situation. And that is actually the most important aspect of a 2v2. It's this part, it's the before the fight, it's assessing the situation. You need to be looking at what is happening, right? And that basically means that you need to be looking at summoner spells, the runes, the matchup, the possibilities of your and the enemy jungler ganking, the possibilities of yours or the enemy solo laners teleporting, the likely outcome, and also the unlikely outcome, right? So let's talk about these things. First, summoner spells. That's pretty easy, right? I mean, you know when the enemy has certain summoner spells, you know when they don't have it, right? Or do you? People still in season 11 don't time summoner spells. People just, they see the enemy flash, they ping their enemy flash, and then they forget about it. Do not do that, guys. Do not do that. What you want to do is have the time in game in the chat on, so that, for example, you type a message in 2:30, it says 2:30 message, right? What you want to be doing is do time the enemy summoner spells by clicking on it, right? So pinging the summoner spell. But then what you want to do is type a message. right? Do a quick message. So if the enemy bot lane, let's say they both flashed at 3 minutes, their flash will be up around 8 minutes, right? Of course, there are certain runes that make the summoner spell a bit lower, right? Cosmic Insight, but in general, it's going to be 8 minutes. So what you want to be doing is you do a quick message in your chat saying 0800 bot lane flash, right? What you then do is you press Control A and Control C. This copies your message, the 0800 bot lane flash. Then what you want to do is paste that message every once in a while. So every minute or so, you want to be posting in your chat 0800 bot lane flash. This is a huge advantage. When people do things like just ping the summoner spell and forget about it, after 4 minutes or so, you won't know if that summoner is up or not. But if you type it in chat and retype it every once in a while, you see that you see high elo people do that all the time, right? It's also because back then you couldn't, in the older times, you couldn't just ping summoner spells. You actually had to manually type it out, just like jungle times. But nowadays, it's still so good to do, so please do that. Then the runes, that's a pretty obvious one, you might think. Certain runes are just better than others for a bot lane 2v2 or for skirmishes or early fights in general. So let's say both of the enemies have bad runes. So let's say their Caitlyn has Fleet Footwork, right? It's a sustain rune. It doesn't really want to get into a fight. It just wants to heal a bit and speed the ADC up. Let's say the enemy support has Summon Airy, right? It's just going to be a small shield or like a small poke device, right? But let's say your bot lane, you're playing Pyke and Kai'Sa. Both of you have Hail of Blades. That is going to be huge, and this could actually be something that turns a losing bot lane into a winning bot lane, right? Most of the time you will see either both ADCs on something like Lethal Tempo or Hail of Blades in Season 11, or Dark Harvest if it's a Jhin, right? The supports could play something like Aftershock, Guardian, maybe Summon Airy. So you need to be looking at which champion has which rune and then also assessing the situation accordingly, right? If you just have better runes than the enemy for an early game fight, you will most likely win that fight. Could be that it's an equal lane, but due to your runes being worse than the enemy's runes, you don't want to get into the 2v2 because you know you will lose because they have the Hail of Blades, right? Or the Hail of Blade and the Aftershock or something like Lethal Tempo, right? So it's very important. Then matchups. Of course, that's something that I couldn't really explain in a short time, and I won't even try to. I will make a video on that very soon. It's gonna be one of my first videos because it's insanely important. Knowing which supports have good synergy with which ADCs, then also which ADCs beat which ADCs, which supports beat which supports, etc. That is a huge part of bot lane 2v2s, because if you know that you're playing as Leona and the enemy plays as a Thresh, then you would most likely know that if you want to use your Zenith Blade, your E on the Thresh, that you will most likely get flayed right back and you're going to just straight up be useless, right? Then on the contrary, you're playing Leona and you're playing against a Vel'Koz, right? If you just engage on him, proc your Aftershock, what is there that he can do? There's basically nothing, right? So matchups are insanely important, and don't worry about that quite yet, because I will be making a video on that very soon, right? Now we need to be looking at the possibilities of your or the enemy jungler ganking, right? We need to look at where our jungler is right now. Did he start topside? which would mean that in an early 2v2 fight in the bot lane, our jungler will be bot side. So if he sees the fight breaking out, there's a good chance that he could just run down and turn this fight from a 2v2 into a 3v2. On the contrary, did the enemy jungler start top side or bot side, right? We saw the enemy bot lane come into the lane a bit later, and they used a couple of abilities already because we see their mana bar is a bit lower than 100%. Then that basically means if they are not fake leashing, that they did leash the enemy jungler, right? So that means the enemy jungler started on the bot side. So if there's a level 3, level 2, level 4, level 5, well, maybe not level 5, let's say level 2 to level 4 fight in the bot lane, then there's a good chance that the enemy jungler will not be there, right? So that we need to be looking at. Can fights be turned from a 2v2 into a 3v2? Which also means that the solo laners could be TPing, right? Say you're level 5, the enemy Shen is level 6, has his TP up and has his ultimate up. If you engage on the enemy bot lane, there is a huge chance that this Shen will come in and turn this fight from a 2v2 into a 2v3. So you need to be looking at, is it good that he ults bot lane? Can he ult bot lane? Is he low so he cannot go in? Is he currently fighting with our top laner so he could not go in? Etc. We need to look at who has their TP up, who doesn't have their TP up. Could we expect help from our laners? And a lot of the times, if I know that we will definitely win a bot lane fight and one of our solo laners could TP in, I would try to spam ping that, right? Before going in, and you see your top laner has TP up, it's something like a Riven or Aatrox, Irelia, something that does quite a lot in small skirmishes. I will be spam pinging the TP being up on our top laner, and this will result in them TPing bot. And this is huge for us, right? Because we turn it into a 3v2. Let's say we kill bot laners, the enemy bot laners, we get dragon, right? Boom, bot lane is won. We just got a Drake. Great, right? Then we need to be looking at the likely outcome, right? In League of Legends, nothing is 100% sure, except if you have 100% crit, I guess. What will most likely happen if I engage right now? So this is basically just taking everything that we just talked about and putting it into a big percentage package, right? I'm a poker player, and I've made quite a lot of money with poker. There's one thing that you need to understand about poker before getting into it, which is that even if you have a very high chance of winning, you will not always win, right? An 80% chance will lose against a 20% chance 1/5 of the time, right? That sucks, obviously. But does that mean that we should not take the 80% chance? Definitely not. If I have an 80% chance that my bot lane 2v2 will go good in our favor and we will kill them, then I will take that every single time. Because if I do that 10 times, I will most likely win it 8 times, right? Even if I win it 4 out of 10 times because I got unlucky, or because they got a lucky crit, because their top laner TP'd even though he shouldn't in his current situation, and I assessed the situation properly, but I still lost, it doesn't mean that it's a bad play, right? On the contrary as well, though. If I know that, alright, we could be winning this fight, we could not be winning this fight, I rather not go in, then I will not go in, because that would be the likely outcome, that we will not win this fight, right? So we need to be looking at that, and also the unlikely outcome, right? If the likely outcome, which is say a 65% chance that we kill one of them, and the unlikely outcome, which is a 35% chance, is that both of our bot laners die and they get dragon, it's still not good to get into that 65% chance, because the risk outweighs the reward, right? And this is what I mean by assessing the situation. This is a huge part of playing bot lane 2v2s. You need to think about what will happen, what could happen, what should happen before you do the fight, before you go in, right? So we assessed the situation. We decided, all right, the likely outcome is that we will win this fight, right? We're playing Alistar, as shown in the picture. Let's get in there, right? We flash in, we knock them up, we stun them. Who do we focus? So, there are quite a bit of variables that we need to be looking at to figure out who we want to be focusing, right? And that is most likely just going to be the enemy bot lane champions. In very simple terms, this basically means that if the enemy has a tank support and a non-dash ADC, you want to go on the non-dash ADC. If the enemy has a squishy support and a dash ADC, you want to go on the squishy support. If the enemy has a squishy support and a non-dash ADC, then you want to go on the ADC, right? So the default strategy is going on the ADC, but there are certain situations in which it's better to go on the support. These are, for example, if the support is out of position, if the support is squishy, if the support doesn't have flash, if the support just uses self-peel, right? If something like that is on cooldown. So you need to be assessing the situation beforehand. That is also in the before the fight part, right? We need to look at, all right, who do we want to focus? It's Brand and Caitlyn, and my team, my bot lane is, I'm playing Leona and my ADC is Kai'Sa. Let's go on the Brand, right? Because the Brand is going to be very squishy. Their bot lane is a Nautilus and a Xayah. And our bot lane is Leona and Kai'Sa once again. Let's go on the Xayah, right? Nautilus is very tanky. The Xayah can't really get out of the fight without flash, so we want to push for the Xayah. You do want to be switching targets mid-fight though if certain things happen. If you see the enemy bot laner, their ADC flash with low HP, you instantly need to be looking at, alright, can we flash to her and deliver the killing blow? Or should we be focusing the support so that he also gets low or also would have to burn his summoners, right? But that is also part of the matchup thing, for lack of a better word, and also the assessing the situation. So you need to have that figured out even before you go in, right? So that you do the correct thing when you fight. Then you will need to be looking at the time frame. What I mean by that is, how long do you want a fight to go on? There are certain things that define that. If you have certain champions like Thresh, like Blitzcrank, like Alistar, who have very high impact abilities with a very high cooldown, then you want fights to be over quickly, right? If you're a Thresh, you use your hook, you use your flay, you're basically just an auto hit bot for the next 10 or so seconds, right? If you're a Blitzcrank, you used your hook, you used your knockup, you will have to wait like 7 seconds until you can knock them up again. Alistar is the most extreme example of that. You used your spells, your W, Q, and E. You don't have a thing to do until your abilities are back up, which is like 12 seconds-ish. Alright? These are champions that want the fight to last for a very short time, right? Then you have certain champs that have good low abilities with not as much high impact. Most of them will be enchanters like Lulu, Karma, Janna, or poke champions like Brand, Vel'Koz, Xerath, and also all-in champions with low cooldown such as Leona or Pyke, who have cooldowns as low as 5 or 6 seconds, right? With these champions, you want to go for the extended fights. You want to make sure that you don't just get one ability rotation off, you want to get 2 ability rotations off. If you're playing Leona against something like Alistar, you want the fight to go on for a longer time than just one ability rotation. because you know that your Q and E are gonna be up before Alistar's Q and W, right? So we want the fight to go on a bit longer. Also, runes play a role in that. If you have something like Eri, which will proc more often than just once in a prolonged fight, against the enemy's Aftershock, right, which will only proc once, you want the fight to go on longer, right? If your ADC has a lethal tempo versus the other ADC, the enemy ADC having Hail of Blades, you want to keep the fight going, right? At least as long as the lethal tempo is still procced, right? Because it's better for you. So we need to be looking at the time frame. Then something that is neglected way too much is minions. In early fights, the levels 1 to, let's say, 5 or 4, minions play a huge part in who wins a bot lane 2v2 or in general early fights, right? There are so many times where you have a lane that's slightly winning. Let's say your chance of winning, if all play perfectly, is around 60%. If you have the enemy minions hitting you and your minions are hitting the enemy minions, you will lose that fight, right? If we look at a siege minion stats, a cannon minion stats, it has around half of an ADC's AD with 1.0 attack speed, right? So this means that one siege minion hitting you versus one siege minion not hitting you is basically half an ADC, right? So minions play a huge part on how a bot lane fight breaks out. The way you want to play with your minions is look at who the minions attack, right? You get aggro on minions, on enemy minions if you fight enemy champions inside the minion wave or close to the minion wave, and vice versa, obviously. So you want the minions to fight with you, and you don't want the enemy minions to fight you, right? There are certain scenarios where it basically doesn't matter that the minions hit you, but that's just in very certain scenarios where your bot lane is just way stronger than the enemy bot lane, right? Where it doesn't matter that you get hit by half an ADC more, right? Because you're. I will have an example of that in one of the two examples I will show later on. That perfectly, encapsulates that, if that's the right word. On why minions don't always matter, but they are always a huge part in an early game fight, right? You will take something like 200 damage from an ADC, but like 180 damage from the minions, and then you were gonna be like, alright, I should have won that fight, why didn't I? Minions. The answer is minions. So that's what we need to be looking at in the fight, right? The mechanics part is something that we don't want to look in the fight, right? Mechanics are knowing which combos you have on your champion, which abilities you can use in which succession to get the most out of it. That is not something that you want to be looking at actively and thinking about in a fight, right? You have to have that stuff figured out already. If you play a champion for the first time, in a fight you will be focusing on the combos of the champion and how certain abilities play out, etc. But that is not something that you want to be doing in your ranked game. You go into the training tool and you you play the champion there, play his abilities, see how it works, Google or YouTube search for their combos, do the combos in the tool, and then do the combos in a normal game before even thinking about putting that champion and playing that champion in your ranked game, right? You do not want to do that. Your mechanics should be on point when you lock in a champion, right? I did that mistake. When Diego just came out, I played him, right? I was like, alright, sounds like a cool champion. I'll just play it on my main, right? Instead of my Smurf or a normal game or something like that. I got absolutely shit on because in a fight I was thinking, what? Okay, so I need to be using Q and then hitting and then W and then hitting, etc. Instead of looking at the big picture, right? I wasn't assessing the situation. I was thinking about my champion, right? And you do not want to do that. You want to have your champion figured out before anything, right? So these are the things that we need to look at and not look at in the fight. So let's look at after the fight, right? You did a 2v2 versus the enemy bot lane. You won the 2v2, right? First question you need to be asking, who died? Did the enemy support die? Did the enemy ADC die? Did your ADC die? Did you die, right? These are very important questions for different reasons, right? A very obvious example of that would be, for example, you're playing Leona Kai'Sa, and the enemy bot lane is Ezreal and Yuumi. You just killed the Ezreal, Yuumi got out, but Yuumi is staying in lane, right? She wants to soak up the XP, she is full HP, she's half mana, she doesn't want to go base, right? She wants to keep that XP going, right? Our jungler is currently around Dragon, so we really want to be doing Dragon. But the minion wave just crashed into the enemy tower, and we see Yuumi just meowing her way to the XP, right? What we want to do in that situation, because we know the Ezreal died and the Yuumi didn't, we know that Yuumi is alone. We're playing Leona. Boom, we tower dive her. Instantly killed, right? That is very important to be thinking about. Also, who burnt the summoners? Which ones and when? Like I've said before in assessing the situation, we need to be pinging summoners. I can't tell you that enough. Ping the summoners, write in chat when the summoner will be up. This doesn't just count for flash and TP, by the way. A cleanse is so important to be timing, right? Let's say you're playing with an Ashe and you're playing Leona. The enemy Jhin has cleanse. It's very important to know when he doesn't have cleanse, right? Say you're level 6. Jhin doesn't have cleanse up for like 30 more seconds, and you know that because you typed it in chat, right? You want to go into him, you want to all in him, you want to kill him, right? You know that this is going to be your last chance to fight him without him having his cleanse up. So we want to fight him, right? This is why it's so important to be timing summoner spells correctly, not just pinging them once and forgetting about it. Then, one thing that we kind of need to be thinking about, but not that much, is who got the kills. It's 2021. People who say something like kill steal or I don't know, report support for KSing, right? I haven't had that in like years, but I see that every once in a while on Reddit, and I'm just baffled, right? It does not matter who gets the kill, right? If it's a very obvious situation where the ADC doesn't have flash, he's on 5 HP, your ADC is winding up an auto hit, sure, don't hit them. It's obviously better in a lot of situations that your ADC gets the kill, right? Because they get the damage. You would just get another cloth armor or something for that kill. In that situation, it's perfectly fine to be thinking about, okay, I want to give my ADC the kill, he gets more ahead, right? But if you're playing a support that does damage, you want to take the kill. You want to take the kill. It's not just, it doesn't matter who gets the kill, it's better on you. You're playing Brand, and your ADC, yeah, I just said support, your ADC is an Ashe. You want to take kills. You just want to shit on the enemy. You're not there to be that Jenna who just shields around and just, you know, flies around and peels for her ADC. Now you want to burn them down, right? This is why you want the kills in the early game. The later the game goes, the better it is for your ADC to get the kill. But that measly dagger is not going to do shit compared to your amplifying tome in a fight, right? It's better for the support to get the kill early in a lot of situations, right? So don't hesitate to take kills unless it's very obvious that your ADC can just easily pick up the kill. It also boosts their morale. ADCs are very fragile players a lot of the time, so you want to give them the kill in a lot of situations, but in a lot of other situations, you want to just straight up take that shit. And obviously, if you're Pike and you have ult, it's best feeling ever because double kill gold. Right. The next thing we need to be thinking about after the fight is whether we want to push or not. Right. In general, the rule of thumb is basically if the lane is pushing towards you and there's no chance of you getting the wave to the enemy tower without the enemy ADC and support returning, so if they get the XP when the minions are on the tower, you don't want to push, right? You want the enemy creeps to kill your creeps, right? You want to recall, so that when you're back, the lane is still pushed towards you, and then you can A, easily pick up the farm, and B, due to the fact that the lane is pushed towards you, you might still go back in and just go for another 2v2 again, right? You want to push when you can collapse the enemy wave into their tower, and also when you want to go dragon, right? Your jungler pings for the dragon, you quickly go push it, just kill the wave real quick, and push it to the tower, go for the dragon, recall, right? Then we need to also be thinking about what do we want to do after the fight when the lane is in a fine spot, right? We want the lane to not be pushed, and it's not pushed, right? So we don't need to do any wave manipulation. What could we do there? Could we go for dragon? Could we go for a quick crab? Could we look at our jungler, see that they are invading and invade with them? Could we go for the mid lane and do a quick roam mid, right? Let's say the enemy Syndra is pushing our Zed towards his tower, right? They're basically at their tower. You're playing Alistar, you already have your mobility boost. Go run mid lane and get that kill, or at least the flash on the Syndra, right? Before you go base, if you have enough mana. These are things that we need to really be thinking about, right? And it's very important that we do so, because a fight won doesn't just equal a fight won, right? One kill doesn't just equal 300 gold. We need to be thinking about what we can do after we got the 300 gold and the enemy is dead, right? What can we do to punish them even more to that they're dead, right? So that we take an advantage. And this is basically what I wanted to be talking about. And yeah, this is the first part of the video. In the second part, I will be talking about two very specific scenarios, and I will talk you through them with the points that we have just discussed. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments, and let's go into the games. Right, so let's look at our first bot lane 2v2. This game was played, I think, 2 days ago. I'm on the red side, I'm playing Leona, my ADC is Kai'Sa, and we're playing against a Jhin and a Sett. The very first thing that we need to do is assess the situation. So, we're all level 2, nothing has really happened yet in this lane. ADCs have just been farming, and Sett and me have just been stacking our Relic Shield, right? We're level 2, so we have 2 out of 3 spells available. The very first thing that we need to look at is which spells will each champion have. So Leona is obviously going to have her E and her Q. I haven't learned Q yet, but I will. The Sett is most likely going to have his W and his E. The Jhin is going to have his Q and his W, and the Kai'Sa is going to have her Q and her W as well. Maybe her E, but most Kai'Sa players go for her W, because it's more damage and also gives her a safe farming opportunity, especially for this cannon in case something happens. Then the next thing that we need to look at is runes. Runes play a big role in the early game, and having certain runes will be a lot better than others, right? So in this situation, the Jhin has Dark Harvest, the Sett has Phase Rush, I have Aftershock, and my Kai'Sa has Hail of Blades. This is a very obvious situation, where we can see that our runes are way better than theirs for an early 2v2 fight. Aftershock gives me a good chunk of resistances and also the good damage after it procs. Kai'Sa has a lot of early game strength with her Hail of Blades, because obviously 3 auto hits in quick succession. Jhin does not have a good early game rune with the Dark Harvest because it hasn't been stacked yet. And Set's rune is basically useless, in a straight up 2v2 scenario, because all it does is make him faster. So we have way better runes, and also our champions are stronger in the early game. Jhin doesn't have his 4 shots available. Set, before he has his Q and some AD or some tankiness, doesn't do all that much. Leona is a very strong early game champion, and Kai'Sa is perfectly fine, as we can see here, on mana for a long time, or the enemy they came in late, and also this ward shows it perfectly fine. But in a normal situation, you would see that if the enemy jungler started on bot or top side, right? So in this situation, we saw that their jungler started bot side and our jungler started top side. So that's good for us, right? There's no danger of the enemy jungler coming in. And in case he does a weird pathing and tries to go bot lane very early on, we also have this ward. So we have vision here, here, here. There's basically no chance of the Nocturne coming in and disrupting the 2v2. So we also have all summoner spells, and this is basically assessing the situation, right? We know everything that's going on. And in this situation, we have a very, very strong advantage. So we want to go in for a fight. Let's see what happens. Right. Jhin used his W, which is very important because it's one less ability that he has. He did hit it on the Kai'Sa, but it doesn't really do all that much, right? You see me here walking from this bush and going into this minion, which is basically part of my plan, right? Minions are very strong in the early game. If you have a minion advantage, you will most likely win an early game skirmish. As you can see here, for example, the Set has 71 AD, the Jhin has 85 AD, and as we can see here, the Siege minions have 41 AD. So that's basically a bit more than half of a champion. And that is huge in a fight, right? Especially with the attack speed, right? We have 1.0 attack speed on the Siege minion. So getting this minion down and making ours survive will give us a big advantage in a fight. This is basically why I chose to go out of the bush and go for the Relic Shield proc on the Siege minion, which I do here. We have this down. My passive has been procced here, the Bone Plating, and I still have 2 stacks on it. We have our minion alive, we have our jungler being around, we have the enemy jungler not being around, we have all sums, we have better early game runes. This is a perfect situation to jump in. Right, we go into the Set, and as we saw here, the Set made movement from here to like here, and this basically signifies to us that he wants to go for the Kai'Sa. But as we've already assessed the situation, Jhin is very far back, we have the minion and all the other advantages that I've shown you previously, we will win this fight. So Set decides to flash in, E the Kai'Sa. At this situation he's already very low. Obviously he does have his W up, so he will get a big shield from his passive. But we've basically already won this fight, right? He's used both summoner spells. My Kai'Sa is still very healthy. I'm still very healthy. The Jhin is being attacked by the creep, and he's already used heal. So we just go on him. He's using his W, and Kai'Sa flashed away. Jhin is fighting Kai'Sa right now. I'm chasing Set for a bit, but in this situation, in this point of time, Set is basically out of the fight. He doesn't have any abilities anymore, doesn't have any summoner spells anymore. His phase rush has been procced. He's basically out of the fight. So what we do in this situation is turn around, go for the Jhin. He does flash in and hit the Kai'Sa with his 4th shot and his Q when she does a very good heal timing. And in this situation we already won the 2v2. Basically because the Set is very far back, he's out of the fight. We have all of these creeps attacking the Jhin, while their creeps are here, right? There's nothing these creeps can do to us, and we have every single minion here attacking the Jhin. He's out of summoner spells, Kai'Sa is out of summoner spells, I still have my flash. That's basically the only summoner that we still have. So let's play this. We are currently poking and using Q on him. We go back in for the set because, like I said before, he's out of the fight. If he decides to go back in, then that's basically his death sentence, right? He's very low, there's a lot of creeps hitting him and Jhin. Their creeps are still hitting our minions. And we are in a perfectly fine situation to just re-engage on the set and try to kill him. Which we do. We hit him, he's very low, right? And this is basically the end of the 2v2 fight. We got all of their summoners, we still have our flash, the creeps are still attacking the Jhin, so there's not much that he can do in this situation, right? So he does go for a W, I dodge it, and as you can see here, on the minimap at first, whoops, the Udyr right now pinged that he would be coming in, as you can see here. And we've won the 2v2 already, so Udyr is basically just going in for the kill. We wait, just waiting for the Udyr to come in here. In this situation, it's a free kill, he doesn't have summoners, Sett can't really do anything, we still have our flash up, we decide to flash in, go for the Jhin, auto reset with the Q, and let Udyr take the kill. So right now we're in a good situation, we killed their ADC, we got all their sums, Udyr is getting fed, he's basically getting a free crab right here, and we can base knowing that the lane is slow pushing towards us. We will base right after. And yeah, this is a perfect example of us winning a 2v2 fight and turning that into a kill by assessing the situation, knowing what we can do, knowing who we can do it against, and using the creeps to our advantage. Right, so let's look at the second example. In this game, we're playing on the blue side. We're playing as Thresh with the Xayah as ADC, and the enemy bot lane is Brand and Kai'Sa. What do we do as the very first thing? We assess the situation. So, we're all level 3, so we have access to all of our abilities. We still have all of our summoner spells up. Nobody has based yet, everybody's still starting items. At this point, we are, just as Thresh versus Brand, way stronger. Brand, at this point of time, doesn't do anything. He can stun you for a quick second, he can do like 30% of your HP, but other than that, Brand is basically useless. So we want to get into a situation where we have an all-in against them, 2v2, and punish him for his Brand pick, right? Brand wants to scale up, wants to do a lot of damage in team fights. Thresh wants to go in early. Thresh wants to help his ADC get really fat so that she basically doesn't care if Brand exists. The rune setup So we as Thresh have Aftershock, our Xayah has Lethal Tempo, and the Brand has Dark Harvest, and their Xayah has Hail of Blades. So, Aftershock is a lot better than Dark Harvest, obviously. Makes us very tanky, gives the damage proc afterwards, and Dark Harvest without stacks, like I said before in the Leona example, doesn't really do all that much in the other game, right? You need to stack it up. So we as Thresh versus Brand are a lot stronger, and we as Aftershock versus Dark Harvest are a lot stronger. Xayah versus Kai'Sa, they do very similar damage in the early game, but Xayah does have the advantage that if she gets a good E off, she can absolutely screw them, right? If she gets an E on both of them, it's basically GG from that point. So we want to get into an all-in fight. Lethal Tempo versus Hail of Blades. Hail of Blades means she wants to do a quick trade, quick 1, 2, 3, boom, get out. And Lethal Tempo, obviously she wants the Lethal Tempo to proc and then hit, 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 hit. Perfect for our all-in scenario. Then let's look at the enemy teams and what we could expect to come in. So the TF is in the mid lane with his teleport up. Our Galio does have TP, but he's very low, right? He's also being pushed in. So in this situation, the TF will definitely be dangerous, and potential TP could come into the bot lane, making this a 3v2, and then we probably lose it if we don't manage to demolish this Brand before TF even gets here. Top lane, Darius doesn't have TP, but Gnar also right now doesn't have TP, and as we see in chat, Darius has also pinged that Gnar is TP'd, so we know that there's no TP from the Gnar. TF could come in, and also the Kayn could come in. In this situation, I'm not expecting Kayn to be here, right? We don't have vision anywhere here, we don't have the crab, but I'm basically expecting Kayn to either be somewhere around here, clearing his own jungle, somewhere around here clearing his own jungle, or fighting for this top crab. We saw the Kayn getting a leash from the bot lane due to them being on lower mana, and also I think Brand was not on full HP. So I'm expecting the Kayn to just not be here, right? He's invading our Elise, and Elise is better than Kayn in the early game, right? Kayn has the advantage that he could Q all of Elise's spiderlings, but still in general, Elise is perfectly fine against Kayn in an early game fight. So I'm not expecting him to be here. I'm expecting him to, maybe if we go on an all-in here, I'm expecting the Kayn to maybe come over the wall like this, or maybe like this, or maybe like this, right? But we're not really expecting him to be here, is what I'm trying to say. Him being here is basically like a 20% chance or something. And we're fine with taking the 80%, right? So, after assessing this situation, we know that TF could come in, we know that Kayn could come in, but we're not expecting him to come in like this. We are expecting him to come in like this, or maybe like this, right? So the danger zone for us is here, right? If we like past this point, we should get up. Right? We don't have a ward in here, that's kind of spooky, but like I said, it could be like this. I'm not expecting him to be here. So, we fully assess the situation. What I do here, I go in, we see here, Brand and Kai'Sa are clumped up together, and this is Thresh is basically the dream, right? If I manage to be here, I flay like this, and flay downwards, then they are already clumped up together, they both just got flayed. I have my Aftershock proc, I have my hook ready to land on one of them, and we're trying to go for the Brand, right? We're not trying to go for the Kai'Sa, as Brand is very squishy early on and we can just explode him with the Xayah. So, what we do here, we lantern the Xayah for the shield of the W, and also obviously we want her to be here. The minions at this point are not really a concern to us, because Thresh is just so much better than the Brand, right? If this was a similar situation to before, where we have engaged support versus engaged support, you know, Leona versus Sett, that's a different story, because both of them deal kind of similar amounts of damage, both of them kind of have the same amount of CC. It's very similar, right? But here we just absolutely shit on them. So we want to shit on them. We lantern in, flash, they're clumped up here, and as you can see, before they were like this, very much together, but now they are in a distance from each other. So we can get a free hook on the brand. A double flay here, free hook on the brand. And this is exactly what we're going for. We flay, we hit the brand, and as we can see here, they're spreading, right? When they are spreading like this, basically what this means is that Brand has already given up. He wants to die, right? He just doesn't want his ADC to die, so he wants the Kai'Sa to go like this, and he could go like this. Maybe flash over the wall, maybe get out with a sliver of HP or something like that. But he's not expecting to live. He just wants his Kai'Sa to stay alive, right? So we want to do him that favor, right? It's perfectly fine if we get the Brand done. So we ignite him. He flashes here. This is now very spooky, right? The only thing that Kai'Sa could really do is flash over here. I could hook the Xayah. The only thing the Xayah could do is flash over here, finish off the Brand as he still has Ignite on him and just started, right? So there's still quite a lot of damage going in from the Ignite. And I could, maybe hook the Kai'Sa, but nothing really much would come out of that, right? So, as you can see here, I'm getting ready to hook the Kai'Sa. Maybe the Xayah wants to finish him off. Maybe she wants to come in and kill the Kai'Sa with me or burn both of her summoner spells, which both are perfectly fine outcomes, right? If we burn her sums, we can push the lane and she would lose the creeps. Brand wouldn't die, and we're very much ahead. If we kill the Kai'Sa, or if we kill the Brand, or obviously both, but I'm expecting to kill both, then obviously we got kills, we can push, etc. Right? So these are both perfectly fine scenarios. So we hook her, the Xayah gets a good E on her, she's low, she healed, she has flash up, Brand is coming back in. Right? We're still hitting the Xayah because she's much closer than the Brand. In this position, I will expect the Xayah to flash on the Brand and finish him off, and then we can maybe go for the Kai'Sa, or we can just retreat as we don't have vision anywhere around here. And there could be a TP from the TF. There could be a Kayn coming in, right? He's actually moving in right now. But, like I said, I'm expecting him to be here, right? So this is a danger zone for us. But as they are so low, even if Kayn comes in, we just kill him, right? My Xayah has both her sums up, and this is a perfectly fine scenario. So we hit on the Kai'Sa, I get stunned by the Brand. At this point, I'm expecting Xayah to do something, right? If you're in an elo where you cannot really expect people to do certain things, like this, heal, flash, kill the Brand, what I would advise you to do is fully go on the Brand, right? Obviously in high diamond, low master, etc., we know that our ADC has skill. So in this situation, oh, that was a bit too far. So in this situation, right here, I'm hooking the Brand, right? I'm hooking the Brand, I'm getting the kill, and that's it. But in a certain elo where you can basically expect the Xayah to kill the Brand without you really doing all that much, you go for the Kai'Sa. But to be sure, you should be hooking the Brand and killing him instead of the Kai'Sa, right? So let's play this out. We hit him, I get stunned. The Xayah does the right thing, which is flash on them. And right here we've already won the 2v2. But, Kayn is coming. If Kayn comes in this situation, we're perfectly fine, right? I think Elise spotted him on the map. She's moving in, and I think we also saw her on the map, saw the Kayn on the map. So we're very comfortable right now, right? It doesn't seem like TF is TPing in, he's very low. Gnar doesn't have TP, or Elise is coming in as well. So we can kill the Kai'Sa, we can kill the Kayn, and get out, right? In this situation, Kai'Sa flashes towards her Kayn. TF is TPing in, I die here, my Xayah dies here, Elise kills him, and it's a 2-for-2 in total, right? Had the Galio not TP'd in this situation, It would have been very good for us, right? 2 for 2, plus we got the TFTP, we got the Kane gank, and also Flash. A lot of suns have been burned. We're in a perfectly fine spot. Unfortunately, Galio does TP in, but still in this situation, we are fine, right? The lane is in a comfortable situation, kind of. It's slow pushing towards them, but we can get our push in. We can fight for the crab, which might spawn soon. We can fight for the dragon, which might spawn soon. So even though it was only a 2 for 2, we got out well in this fight, right? So yeah, this is the end of my video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys learned quite a bit from that. In case you didn't, please do tell me so in the comments, because obviously this is my first YouTube video, so I probably have done quite a bit wrong. In case I did, please let me know and I will try to eradicate mistakes in the future. If you did enjoy, do not forget to like, subscribe, etc. I don't think I would have to tell you guys. Yeah, and like I said, please tell me which champion you want to know about more in the next video, and I will do a guide on that. So thank you very much. Have a great time. Fuck Corona and goodbye.